Okay, Tony, I think, yeah, I think we're recording there. Good morning. Good morning.
Morning.
I suppose I just wanted to start off by saying again, on behalf of the team, thank you for agreeing to be overall project sponsor. I know you've had a little bit of contact with the team. That will continue over the coming weeks and months. But a big thank you for playing that role. Yeah. And you know, I would hope, and you mentioned it on the first call, that hopefully you'll get some benefit from that as well, as well as the team themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the experience of that team, Graham, like I said on the call, I genuinely, I know that there's lots for me to learn as well. So I do see it as a reciprocal arrangement, not just a sponsorship of the project. So
yeah. Well, thank you, and let's pull out all the stops to make that the case, really, from all angles. So, Tony, obviously, one of the three areas that the guys are looking at is indeed that induction, onboarding process and opportunity. Yeah.
yeah.
I guess our joint experience would suggest that probably the majority of companies don't get that quite right. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll maybe talk about that on another occasion. So with that in mind, the guys always wanted to hear your story about joining your new organisation, DHL. Yeah.
Yeah.
From the very first moment that you joined, you genuinely seemed impressed. It felt different for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And therefore, it's no surprise if it feels different. It's going to help people to settle in, as opposed to not settling in. So please, over to you, and just in your words, and you know what happened, what you felt about it, some of the highlights in particular.
Can we just pause there for 1 minute, Graham?
Of course.
No more interruptions.
Okay. No, thank you. So there we are. So yeah. So over to your good self.
Yeah, so even before I started, Graham, the way that they communicated, and I won't make this a big DHL sell. So I've been with the business 4 months now, and from the point of even right back to the interview process, they made it was very informal. It was within a process, as you would expect, but they made the communication was nothing like I'd experienced before. So we then went through the interview process, got offered the role, accepted the role, and then almost immediately they start to induct. They agreed that I was okay to do my 3 months notice at my previous business, but literally the induction started from the day after I accepted. So within the first day, I'd had a letter from People Services, which is the central HR function, basically saying, we're really pleased that you've agreed to join the business. In the next week, you'll get your contract documentation. This is what you need to do with it. This is where it needs to go. So first impression, big tick. You know, we're really pleased you're joining the business.
Yeah.
And as they were true to their word, within the week, so towards the end of the week, contract documentation comes in two forms. One is in a paper form in the post, and the second one with an access to a portal to go on where there's frequently asked questions, where there's a copy of the contract, and where they'd set me up as an individual. Now, I know some of that's okay for some of the larger businesses and might be out of reach of some of the smaller businesses. But again, the fact that I had a paper copy to go through, and then this portal that was set up in my name, you go in, you change the password, and actually that's where all your HR documentation or all this induction documentation was going to be. Sent the contract back. The following week, so this is 2 weeks now after I'd accepted, the following week, get an email basically from an HR business partner, a senior HR business partner, Claire, who says, hi Tony, I'm Claire. I'm the person who's going to organise your induction and help with the onboarding into DHL. I'll give you a call. This is my number. I'll give you a call in the next week just to talk through some of the things that we might want to do. Is that okay with you? Absolutely. Reply to that. Within the week, Claire rings me and says, this is who I am. This is my background. Been with DHL 20 years. You're part of the best welcome process. And it's something new that we're rolling out, as we don't believe our induction process is robust enough.
All right. Okay. Great. Yep. Yep.
And what I found was, so in the first 3 weeks, I'd had 3 different contact points, and all of them saying, we're really pleased you're joining. Now, this is DHL. This is the largest logistics business in the world, who are reinforcing that they're pleased that I'm joining the business. So I spoke to Claire. We agreed, and I volunteered this, but actually Claire said it made the process easier, and I certainly believe it did. I said to Claire, I was more than happy to come down and spend half a day or a day with her, just going through some of the mechanics of how do I get to day one landing, hitting the ground running, really. And Claire had said that was exactly the philosophy of the best welcome process, was how does your new employee already feel part of the business even before they start. So we're a month into my notice period now. I went and met Claire for half a day, and she took all, so we did all the ID stuff, the driving license and all that. And then she just went through a list of criteria of, okay, I've ordered you some sweatshirts, safety shoes, high-vis vests. They'll all have your name on. They'll be delivered to your home address on the week before you start. I've organised your ID cards so I've got 7 different sites. I've organised your ID and your access cards across those sites. We've made the announcement in the business that you're joining. We've given a little bit of your background, and they sent to check that with me before they sent it. Are you comfortable for that to go out? Your laptop, your car keys, your mobile phone will all be delivered the week before you join the business. You won't be able to access your laptop because on the first day when you come in, that's what will take you through all the security process of the IT system and so on. So already now, I feel like and this is not just at a senior level in the business, we do this at operations manager levels. So a guy hitting the ground, coming in on a shift, will go through this best welcome process as well. Got all the bump, if you like, behind the business and the background to the business and the history. And then a list of the online training that they would like me to do in the first year. And some of that's compulsory, so it's compliance and things like that. Yeah. A list of projects that were relevant to the pillar that I work in, so manufacturing logistics. So I'm already now getting a feel of some of the activity in the sector that I'm working in. A background pack on the customers that were in the sites that I was working for. And again, as an operations manager, you get all of this because ultimately they're the day-to-day face to the customer. So background of the customers in terms of scale, how long the partnership has been with DHL, and an account pack ultimately that gives the background to the contract, the length, the key relationships and so on. So we're into probably a month now before I start. I've been through that with Claire. She's called me every week just to say, have you got everything you need? Is everything where you need it to be? I've organised your first day, Tony. So your first day will be in Tier 4 in Birmingham. We'll spend a full day. We'll get you set up on the IT. We'll make sure your car's okay. I've got these list of people, and it was 4 people to start with, who I think will be your key contacts. One of them, Stuart, is the guy who runs the Jaguar Land Rover contract, will be your buddy. So that's your go-to point in the first 2 weeks if you've got an issue that you're just not sure. And Claire was, as the HRBP assigned to me, if you like, was there constantly. So everything arrives as they say it will: laptop, keys, car, all that stuff. I had an issue with a car which was resolved within 4 hours in the morning, and the response to any issue I've had. So it's not been issue free, but I think that's the important thing of it. I don't think any any induction into a business is going to be smooth. There are going to be issues and there are going to be questions, but every question I had, every issue I raised, or every challenge I needed some help with, I had a single point of contact to go to who farmed that question into the business, and it came back directly to me. So it gets to the first day, I already feel like I'm part of DHL. So I've got my DHL sweatshirt, I can get into the building, so I haven't got this uncomfortable hanging around in reception for ages. I walk in and one of the girls says to me, "You must be Tony." And it's like, why? Is it so obvious that I'm the new kid? So you know, we have let me get you a cup of coffee. And again, this is how it is for operations managers. It's not just, you know, this is not an elite management process. This is operations managers. And I think the intention of the business is to move that on to first line managers when they've done the first year of this process.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
because the business clearly recognises first line managers are the most important managers in the business. So they want to get it right before they pass it into the first line management population.
Okay. Yeah.
So first day in the process, sat down, passwords, go through the system, had a challenge with a laptop. One of the IT guys comes down, sorts it out, because they were expecting that, you know, I suppose the reason it was at that site, Firefort, that's where all the central functions are, so they could be addressed quickly if there were any issues. Again, reiterate it and keep saying it. This is to operations manager level as well. So it's at multiple levels at this moment in time in the business. And everything worked. I've got my phone. I've got the list of contacts in my phone, so I didn't need to sit for 2 hours and start putting names in who I might need to contact. And then throughout that week, I had a touch point with Claire every day. We used Skype, and it was like literally a 10-minute Skype session in the morning. How's it going, Tony? Is everything all right? And then what they created in the first week was almost just a list of contacts, as I say, that had gone into the phone, that I had the email addresses. And Claire, as part of the Best Welcome, had said to me, all these people are aware that you will contact them in the first 2 weeks to organise your own timing. So look after your own calendar, you book in your induction slots with those. And as you come out of those discussions with those guys, they'll point you at somebody else, probably based on the questions that you asked them. So these were, there were 3 senior guys, there were all the peer team, and then it was the general managers on my sites. And I just went through that process of, in the first 2 weeks, booking those times in the calendar. The thing that made it really easy was I had a list of names who the business believed it was important that I get to know. And I worked through that list. Everybody knew that I was going to contact them. So there were over 20 names on the list, and every single one of them replied to me on the same day that I emailed them. So it's those little things that actually
of course.
Organise the calendar and get sorted. Since then, I've been asked for feedback on the process, and I've given feedback to the Best Welcome process, and you know, the business will accommodate that feedback along with other people who have been through the process as well. That's a very quick and dirty waffle of the Best Welcome process, and I can get some of that information on slides and stuff like that if that helps the guys.
Well, a really big thank you. So that's a great amount of detail. It really is. I think it's interesting because I know the lads on the project, we have discussed this situation, Tony, where somebody accepts a job, they're leaving an existing job, and then there can be weeks of uncertainty about, is this going ahead or not?
Yeah.
And that's awful. Whereas you had a letter the next day that says, welcome to the organisation. You know, you were leaving an existing leadership position. But if, you know, somebody not operating on that level takes a risk to join another organisation and doesn't hear confirmation of that for weeks, that's not great, is it?
No, it's not, and I can completely relate to that. And I think Yeah, I can't stress enough, this is not because it's a VP role. This is how the business sees its induction program going forward. And I think I've talked to some of the ops managers who work in my sites, and a couple of the new guys have been through the process, and they all say the same. It's the little things that matter. The not having to hang about in reception for half an hour on your first day.
Yeah.
The fact that somebody is there to meet and greet you, it just makes it's like being at school on your first day. You want it as comfortable as possible.
Yeah, you do.
And we all remember the new jobs where you go into it and actually it doesn't work right. And you start off with doubt in your mind. And the last thing you want a new person coming into a role at any level is doubting whether they've made the right decision or not.
Absolutely. And therefore, the messages from the selection process are not reinforced in the induction process. So, what have I been sold here? Because
absolutely, absolutely right.
So, okay, brilliant. Just quickly, if I could, have you got a feel further down in the organisation yet about this thing of when people are expected to start the real job? Because if you take that situation at Nissan, that's very clear to people, and you wouldn't be let loose until you've been to the college and you've done a whole range of things before people expect you to start the task. And I think the lads have found out through research, very often that's not made clear.
Yeah, okay. So I can talk from my perspective, and then I can talk from my experience in the past 4 months then as well. So from my perspective, it was really clear, and it all changed with COVID-19, as you'd probably expect. The expectation, so I absolutely had it drummed into me in the first week by my boss, who's the MD of Manufacturing Logistics, and by Trish, who is the VP of HR, that their messages were consistent. This is a big yellow and red machine. Understand the business before. There is no expectation that you will start doing your job in the first 3 months. So you have 12 weeks, and actually, if it takes longer, that's fine. You have 12 weeks to understand the business. Get out and about in the business, meet your peers, get across the functions, get across the sectors. We don't have any silos. Now we do, because of the scale of the business we're going to, and the business is working hard to try and break those down.
Yeah.
But the sentiment was, get out. There's no expectation that you'll have to get involved with your customers for 3 months. We've told them that, and they had, because we want your induction to be enriched with knowledge and experience.
Yeah.
Not having to apply your skills. That's how I had it described to me. You don't have to apply your skills. We want to enrich your knowledge and education.
Yeah, and indeed build relationships with people.
Yeah, absolutely. So the guys then on the ground, it's slightly different, I suppose, based on the nature of, I'm tripping around anyway around multiple sites. But if I talk about one of my GMs who, again, so the background of an individual is really important. So this guy has joined us in our Aston Martin factory in South Wales, and he's come from Ford. He's been with Ford 32 years. So our expectation was this guy's going to have a massive culture shock because he's been in the same business, quite an aggressive business, but he's been in the same business for 30 years. He's not changed his job or the location he's gone to for 30 years. But the experience and the knowledge that he has of the automotive sector, we felt would be really valuable in the startup of this new Aston Martin factory. And he's come in, he's been through the best welcome process, so everything, despite COVID-19, so he started on I'll get the date wrong, but he started on the 4th of, where are we? He started on the 4th of May. 5th of May, because I think that was originally planned to be a bank holiday, so we had him starting on the 5th. And everything was in place for him. He'd had the same contacts, he'd had the same discussions, his technology was all in place. He works on an open plan floor, but his area was all prepared for him. And he came into the business, and the expectation for him was we wouldn't expect him to do his job or to start doing his job for at least 8 weeks. So the guy who was moving out has been on secondment there, is based in Banbury, but has been on secondment in South Wales. We'd firmed up with the guy who was moving out that he would still be there for 3 months while the new GM came in.
Yeah.
So, and I'll name them, they won't mind that. So Kev was moving out, Colin, the new GM, comes in. And those two have just worked together on Colin's induction for the first 8 weeks. So here we are now, we're nearly 2 months down the road. Colin has just started to join some of the customer calls and some of the calls that I'm on as we update around the startup of the factory. But there's no expectation on him to contribute. He's in there to listen and learn and take on. And if he's got a suggestion, which he has had on occasions, he's a really experienced guy. He's comfortable to share them. And I tell you, one of the things we've done, and we probably will do it continuing after lockdown, I'll say, or after COVID-19, or as the dust settles. One of the things that team has done, because it's a new team that's been created.
Yeah.
So Colin has come in as a general manager of the site. A couple of the guys have moved across from some of our other sites, but it's a new team. They have, every Friday night, they've had a online quiz.
Right.
And
yeah,
just
right.
even that, as Colin would say, that has really helped me get to know the team.
Yeah, lovely. Great. That's great. That's a great story. That's a great story.
In a social but non-social context, it's really strange. So, so I think, Graham, for me, in our business, and I think we have, as part of this Best Welcome process, we've made it clear that there is no expectation that these guys in a line manager role, it'll be, so they go through a operations management school of excellence first as well as part of their induction for a month. So
okay, we'd like to hear about that some more at some point in time. That would be good.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I've got a regional GM, Rob, who has spent 3.5 years working in Jaguar Land Rover implementing operational excellence, and obviously that's all the lean techniques and all that stuff, and stuff you'll be very familiar with Nissan. Rob would be more than happy to come and share his experience on that. I know as part of he would see it as part of his own development as well.
Yeah,
he's been locked in Jaguar Land Rover for 4 years, and we've let him out. So
yeah, super. Colin, Tony, just going back to Aston Martin and South Wales. I suppose the way you could look at that is your colleague who's coming from Ford with all of those years of experience. See if you agree with this, that if he hadn't got the message about take your time, build relationships, see what's happening, in the absence of that message, somebody like him might have tried to force his Ford experience on the team in the short term, because he's not getting a message from me about take your time with this. So I think people moving into a new job feel under pressure to make their mark. Yeah. And his only reference point is 30 years at Ford. Forget the individuals. I don't mean that, but do you know what I mean? You might think,
know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
I've just got to lift that 30 years, make my mark, because there's pressure on to do so. And you've said to him, no, there's no pressure on at all.
Yeah, I think it would have gone one of two ways, Graham. He would have absolutely felt the culture shock and been like a fish out of water, or he would have done exactly as you described, and he would have believed he had to live up to these expectations and apply that knowledge from day one. And we made it really clear that he doesn't have to.
Yeah.
We've recruited him for his skills. Sorry, I'll start again. We recruited him for his behaviours first and foremost, and how he talked around how he would help the team and develop the team and support the team. We know from his experience that he has the skills to do the job. So we said to him, literally in the interview process, there is no expectation that you come in on day one and start applying those skills.
Yeah.
We might pull on you for your knowledge and your experience, and we'd expect you to ask us questions and we'll ask you questions. But other than that, there is no pressure to meet the customer in the daily operations meetings, because what comes with that is pressure, because you have a customer who's applying that pressure onto you. So we've protected Colin in some way around that and not exposed him to that, because it would have rubbished his induction and he would have got dragged into the day-to-day, and none of us felt, and this process doesn't allow you to do that. It doesn't allow you to be dragged into the day-to-day.
No, sure. No, okay. So those are just big cultural messages, aren't they? They're enormous.
Yeah, no, they are. I think it's been a real eye opener for me, because so as you know, previous role in a PLC, a £15 billion PLC that has none of that structure.
I know.
That literally does the complete opposite and drops people in and just says they'll chuck them in the deep end. It's the best way that they can learn to swim.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, it's not the best way you can learn to swim. I wouldn't give my 20-year-old lad a set of car keys and say, go and drive that car. It's the best way to learn to drive.
No,
never in a million years. So
no, spot on. Absolutely. No, of course. That's a good analogy, of course. Okay. Big thank you for all of that. Yeah. Loads of things.
I hope the guys just find that useful, Graham, and they've got my email address and they've got my phone number. They can give me a call.
No, and this is the start of the relationship with your good self, and I think we're all excited about where it could lead to all parties. Yeah.